Her heart was beating fast as she imagined what would happen next. Darlene wasn't thinking about her husband. She was thinking only about this. Black Guy came closer and finally showed his huge. In the warm heart of Dallas, on the 3rd floor of a sun-washed brick apartment building, lived a woman named Darlene. 65, yes, but with a fire that refused to go out. Her silver hair framed her face in soft curls. Her skin glowed with a peachy cream tone, and her eyes had that glint. A glint that only came from a life of indulgence and secrets. She rented out a room to make some extra money, sure, but she also liked the company. She liked movement in the house. She liked temptation. That temptation arrived one humid afternoon, suitcase in hand, and sweat glistening on his dark skin. His name was DeShawn, 22. Broad shoulders, trim waist, perfect teeth. He had just moved to Dallas to figure things out, as he'd said. And for Darlene, he was a walking dream. He'd barely finished unpacking when she asked if he could help her carry up a heavy box from her car. His arms flexed, his chest pushed against his tank top. Darlene's breath caught for just a second. Days passed and she asked him for little things. "Can you tighten the leg on that table, sweetheart? Would you mind helping me with the groceries?" DeShawn was polite, helpful, always smiling. But today was different. That morning, she stood in the hallway watching him as he climbed up a metal stepladder in her guest bedroom. He had taken off his shirt, said it was too hot, and his skin shone in the overhead light. Every muscle moved like a symphony beneath his skin. His abs clenched as he balanced. His back was wide, strong. A drop of sweat slid down his side, and Darlene's eyes followed it like a prayer. She stood in the doorway, one hand on her hip, pretending to observe the chandelier he was installing. But her gaze was locked on him. Her tongue grazed her top lip without thinking. Every now and then he'd glance down, and she'd smile sweetly like nothing at all was going on in her mind. But oh, her mind was racing. That night she poured herself a glass of rosé, slipped into her silk robe, light blue and barely clinging to her skin, and walked barefoot across the cool tile floor to his room. She knocked once. He opened the door in basketball shorts and a plain tee. He looked surprised, but not nervous. She gave him her softest smile and said, "Just thought I'd drop by. You up for some company?" He stepped aside and she entered. His room smelled like cologne and laundry. She sat on the edge of his bed, letting the robe fall open just enough to reveal a sliver of thigh. Her voice low and sweet, she said, "My husband's out of town tonight, visiting his sister. I don't really like sleeping alone." DeShawn sat beside her, his eyes flicking down just for a second. She reached out casually and let her finger trail along his knee. The air thickened. Tension hung between them like a spark about to catch. He leaned in. His hands weren't shy. He didn't wait for an invitation. His lips brushed her neck, his palm slid up her thigh, and Darlene let out a gasp she didn't know she'd been holding. She wanted to tease him, make him ache. But DeShawn was bold, unafraid. His confidence knocked the breath from her lungs. Her robe slipped away from her shoulders as they tumbled back onto the bed. The night turned slow and hot. He kissed her with a hunger that made her toes curl. His touch both rough and tender, sending waves through her she hadn't felt in years. Her hands tangled in his hair. She whispered his name like a spell. When the sun rose, filtering through the blinds in soft streaks, she was still lying next to him, heart pounding, skin humming. DeShawn was asleep, chest rising gently, and Darlene was smiling. She had just tasted something she never knew she needed, and she was already craving more. The morning light made everything feel softer, warmer. Darlene stood in her kitchen, humming as she cracked 2 eggs into a pan. She wore a silk robe again, though a different one this time. Deeper red, almost like wine. She wasn't cooking for DeShawn, at least not officially, but she had a feeling he'd wake up hungry. Sure enough, she heard the soft creak of his door. Barefoot, shirtless again, DeShawn wandered in, his eyes still half asleep but focused instantly on her. She didn't turn to face him. She let him admire the curve of her back, the sway of her hips, as she stirred the eggs. "Good morning, darling," she purred. He walked up behind her, close. She could feel his breath on her shoulder. His hand found her waist like it belonged there. No words were exchanged. He kissed her neck. She smiled, let her head tilt back against him for just a moment. But then she pulled away, giggling. "You eat," she said, placing a plate on the counter. "We've got all day." The day passed in a blur. She let him wash up in her shower while she changed sheets in the guest bedroom, though she had no plans of using it again. They sat on the couch, close but not touching, watching something on the TV that neither of them paid attention to. Her bare leg brushed his. His fingers traced her wrist without thinking. By evening, the heat between them had returned like a wave. She found herself outside his door again after dinner. This time, she didn't knock. He looked up from his phone as she entered, but he didn't say anything. He didn't need to. She stepped inside, robe slipping from her shoulder once more, and he was on his feet before it even hit the floor. He pulled her to him, kissed her like he meant it. His hands roamed freely now, like he had earned the right. She didn't stop him. She didn't want to. She moaned softly against his lips as he laid her down, his body warm and firm over hers. The way he moved, it wasn't just lust. It was energy, confidence, youth, everything her life had been missing. That night was deeper, slower. They didn't rush. They explored. He whispered things in her ear, made her laugh, made her gasp. Darlene had never felt more alive. His hands were everywhere, kneading, stroking, gripping. Her skin responded to every touch like it was starved for it. Maybe it was. Later, wrapped in his arms, her head resting against his chest, she ran her fingers across the lines of his abdomen. "You're gonna wear me out," she whispered. DeShawn chuckled, low and soft. "I don't think so. You keep up just fine." She chuckled, but inside something was happening. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't planned on feeling anything. It was supposed to be fun, a spark, a secret. But now she was counting the hours until she could have him again. In the morning, the cycle repeated. She waited until his door opened. This time, he came into her room, slid into her bed without a word. Her robe never even made it on. The blinds stayed closed. The world outside disappeared. When the afternoon came, he lay back on her bed, shirtless again, scrolling his phone while she stood at the edge, watching him like art. "What are you thinking about?" he asked without looking. She didn't answer. Instead, she climbed onto the bed, straddled him with a teasing grin. "You." He dropped the phone. That evening, she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her skin was flushed, her lips were fuller, her eyes brighter. She wasn't just smiling, she was glowing. Her husband's face appeared in a photo tucked by the mirror. She reached up, turned the frame around. She didn't want to feel guilty, not yet.